Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing something so cool that's been on my bucket list for a while. We are at the Titan Missile Museum. Now this is one of the most interesting museums that you'll find because it has an actual Titan missile inside. So we're gonna go inside, see what it's like, and also find out a little bit of the history as we gain some brain wrinkles here just outside of Tucson.
We have 18 silos here in the Tucson area. Before going on the tour, we're going to watch a brief video.
Okay guys, we're off to our tour. This should be super exciting. I am so excited about learning more about this. A couple things, guys. We're about to go 55 steps down, and then we're going to go into the control center where we're going to learn more about how they would do this. Then we'll be able to walk over to the actual Titan II, which is the mama jama of all missiles. However, there's a couple little caveats. They have lots of signs saying, watch out for rattlesnakes out here, so we're going to keep our eyes open. A couple things, guys. We're about to go 55 steps down, and then we're going to go into the control center where we're going to learn more about how they would do this. Then we'll be able to walk over to the actual Titan II, which is the mama jama of all missiles. However, there's a couple little caveats. They have lots of signs saying, watch out for rattlesnakes out here, so we're going to keep our eyes open.
The Air Force has designated as a soft area. Look around, it looks real soft.
Yeah.
The reason this is designated as a soft area is because in the event of a nearby nuclear blast, and by nearby, we mean a mile or more away. In the event of that kind of blast, which will generate a fireball, the heat of the sun, about 100 million degrees Fahrenheit, and a shock wave 30 miles in diameter, all of this concrete and steel out here is going to be pulverized, turned to dust, and sucked up into the air. Now, if that bomb blast lands within a mile, and we're within that mile, this facility is within that mile, we are all toast, okay? From the point where that bomb hits to a mile in diameter, everything in that area is going to be pulverized and destroyed. Now, if that bomb blast does happen a mile or more away, this area is being pulverized, but you're back here in our hardened area, you're going to be perfectly okay. 4 feet of reinforced concrete in the walls, 5 feet in the floors and ceilings, and 8 feet when you get out to the silo. Reinforced concrete, meaning they build a batch plant topside, so they could pour the concrete continuously, no stopping. As a result, there's no voids or air pockets in this concrete. In addition, they used rebar. You all know what rebar looks like. Only they didn't use rebar like this. They used rebar the size of that handrail. And when they were all done, they sheathed the entire facility in a 1/4 inch of battleship grade steel and then covered that with copper wires. The copper wires were to prevent an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, from coming into the facility. If that had happened, we would have lost everything electrical and everything electronic, and we'd be rendered useless. In addition to all that, we had 4 of these doors, just like you'd find at Home Depot. Steel I-beams welded together, milled surface on the door and a milled surface on the frame. Those milled surfaces are so precise that when we pull that door shut, it is airtight on the inside. Nothing bad is getting through that door. No radiation, no toxic fumes, nothing bad is getting through that door. How do you get through that door? Well, you're going to pick up that phone in the corner and you're going to make your last of 4 telephone calls. First call you made was to get through that big front gate, topside. Okay, the second 2 calls you made were as you were coming down the stairs. You were being vetted. By the time you get here, we know exactly who you are. So we're going to ask you to press this open button. When you do that, someone at the commander's console has to simultaneously press a second open button. And that has to happen within 2 seconds of each other. And if it does, these huge pins are going to withdraw hydraulically. And then, folks, this is not Walmart. This door does not open by itself. The lowest ranking member of the crew would have to pull it open. Okay. double bunks, but they rarely slept. Rarely slept. If they wanted to take a cat nap for an hour or two, they could, but they're not sleeping 8 hours. They also had a kitchenette. They rarely cooked, because if they cooked, they have to clean up afterwards. So they ended up getting ice chests. They would stop at the local 7-Eleven or Circle K. They'd fill those ice chests with sandwiches and junk food, and that's what they would eat for the 24 hours that they were here. Now, the crew was here for 24-hour shifts, 10 24-hour shifts per month, which meant that they were here about every third day. When they were not here, they were back at the Air Force Base. They were learning, practicing, doing all kinds of things. But most importantly, they were undergoing psychological testing, which I'm assuming both of you would have passed with flying colors, correct?
Correct.
Because we don't want squirrely people down here, all right? Okay. It's over a little hump. That hump covers a 12-inch opening or void. That void goes all the way around this circular room. That can only mean one thing, right? This floor is not attached to the wall anywhere. You're all floating right now, and you're floating on these little springs. There's 8 of them around the room. Now the reason for that is when the shock wave hits that outside wall, it's going to shake it like crazy, but we don't care, because in here we can go as much as 18 inches up and down and as much as 12 inches side to side, and you are not going to feel a thing. If that missile takes off 250 feet down that way, you're not going to see it, hear it, or feel it. That's how well shock isolated you are. The team spent a year at missile school studying Air Force electronics. Okay, when at the end of the year, that person, that BMAT, knew everything there was to know about this missile. If you turned a key, pressed a button, or flipped a switch, and something didn't happen, the BMAT had to explain to you, Captain, why it didn't happen and how to fix it. Now you have to understand, the BMAT was known as, especially by the BMAT was known as the smartest person in the room. But if you asked any commander, they would tell you the same thing. The BMAT was the smartest person in the room. Okay? Now, if something didn't work and the BMAT had to fix it, remember, you only had 3 minutes to launch this missile. Okay? That did not give the BMAT a whole lot of time to say, gee, I've never seen this before. Let me go find a book and see if I can find the answer. Not acceptable. Okay? They needed to know the answers. And they did, because they went to missile school. Missile school gets a bad rap because it's only a year. I mean, how do you compare that with 4 years of college? I need a college person here. You go to college?
Take out all the time.
Just out. Yeah? Okay. When you were in school, pick a course, any course at all. What was the lowest possible grade you could get, 0 to 100, not you, your friends, 0 to 100, and still pass the course?
If you want to take curves into account, I had some like calc courses where people were getting 50s on the exams and
they're passing.
Yeah.
Okay. So here you go. We're not talking about him. We're talking about his friends. They're going out partying every night. They're coming home. They're groggy. They're all kinds of messed up. And what they do is they take the test. As long as they get a 50, they pass and go on to the next course, right? And they graduate. Missile school was a little different. From the time you started to the time you finished, that 1 year period, everything you did was graded. And every single grade had to be a 96 or better. Captain, if you got 10 96s in a row, and then you went out last night, tipping it a little bit, you're kind of groggy this morning, you get a 95, bye, see ya, go do something else. You didn't know where this target was, but you knew what was going to happen to it, because over here it says, this is a ground burst. What is that? That means you're going to take that missile, which is 250 feet down that way, and you're going to send it 800 miles into the sky. The bomb is going to turn around and it's going to come back down again at 20 times the speed of sound. And when it gets within 500 feet of the target, it is going to burst or detonate. And when it does, it is going to blow a hole in the earth 500 feet deep. Think in terms of a 50-story building upside down. And a mile in diameter. Everything in that hole will be pulverized, turned to dust, and sucked up into the air. Now, Captain, if you're ordered to do so, you could change that ground burst to an air burst. Some people think that's better, because now instead of detonating at 500 feet, you're going to detonate at 14,000 feet. Is that better? Watch my hands. No, it's going to be a whole lot worse. So you can have a much broader area of destruction. Which brings me to this bomb, the beautiful bomb that was atop this beautiful missile. In order for me to explain to you how deadly this missile was, I need to take you back to 1945 Hiroshima. We all have seen photographs of that horrific event. When we dropped that bomb on Hiroshima, it was a 10 kiloton bomb. I don't expect any of you to know what a 10 kiloton bomb is, but you do know, because they talk about it on radio and TV. You know, the talking heads that talk to us, tell us stuff because they're smarter than all of us and they know more than any of the rest of us. They are saying things like, Putin might launch a tactical nuclear weapon. Only they usually say tactical nuclear weapon because they don't want you to know that it's nuclear or a weapon. It's just tactical, okay? I actually heard a guy the other day say, if Putin launches a tactical nuclear weapon against one of our cities, we would be hard-pressed to determine how to respond. You haven't heard anything yet. A tactical nuclear weapon is the same size bomb as the one we dropped on Hiroshima. It's 10 kiloton or more. Now you're going to tell me, and that bomb annihilated 5 square miles of that city. Now you're going to tell me that if Putin drops a bomb on New York City and annihilates 5 square miles of the city, that we're going to stand around and go, oh gee, what do you think we should do? Hell no! We're going to respond, and we're going to respond in a horrendous manner. The only way we can respond. So let's hope it never happens. And if you hear these idiots talking on television about a tactical nuclear weapon is no big deal, change the channel. They're idiots. All right, now, if we had that's a 10 kiloton bomb. You have a 9 megaton bomb. Do you know how much 9 megatons is? It's 9 million tons of TNT. It's a little larger than the one we dropped on Hiroshima. As a matter of fact, if we would have dropped this bomb on Hiroshima, we would not have annihilated 5 square miles. We would have annihilated the entire city and its suburbs. A 9 megaton bomb will wipe out an area 33 miles in diameter. I'm talking a city the size of sprawling Los Angeles and its suburbs. Totally flattened, nothing left standing, just dust on the ground. While all that static's going on, you're both grabbing an emergency action message book, nothing fancy. You're going to open it up to the blank page. You're going to start writing down the 41 alphanumeric characters that he's reading off to you and that you will ultimately decode. When he's all done, he's going to say, and I repeat the message, and at that point you two exchange books. And while he is repeating that message, you're checking the captain's work, captain's checking your work. You want to make sure it's right. Captain, your lieutenant looked at you and said, this is a launch order. Is there anything either of you think you should do before you annihilate target 2? What are the top 2 characters, first 2 characters?
Yeah.
That's what you chose, right?
Yep.
So we know we have the right one. If all of these characters match the first line of your launch order, what do you think that means?
I say to her, go for it.
You are ready to go. You have been approved. You have verified your code. What are you going to do with the code? Hold that thought. This is a cross-section of a valve on the propellant line of the missile. It's what's called a butterfly valve. In the old days, the way we launched missiles was very simple. All you had to do was open the butterfly valve for the fuel and allow the fuel to go to the combustion chamber. You would simultaneously open the oxidizer line and you would allow the oxidizer to go to the combustion chamber. That's all you needed to do. Because when those 2 chemicals came together in the combustion chamber, they're called hypergolic, which means as soon as they come into contact with each other, they're going to explode violently. Violently enough to lift that missile out of the silo and send it on its way. 10 years later, the Air Force said, it's too easy to launch a missile. I hope most of you figured that out in about 20 seconds. 10 years later, they decided to put an electronic lock on the propellant lock. This lock is now called the failsafe. You cannot launch this missile until you can unlock the lock. The lock does not take a key. The lock takes a code. Who has the code?
I do.
There you go. All right, you have it. You're going to read it off to the captain. Captain's going to read it off to the BMAT, plug it in there. You're going to get a launch enabled light on your panel. That means the lock is unlocked, and the missile is ready to be launched. Coming in from the Air Force Base, they're going to take your place. You're going to take your locks, you own them, you're going to take them with you to the Air Force Base, you're going to keep them on your person, and when you come back, you're going to put it back on the safe. If you lose the lock, you're going to Leavenworth for a really long time. Do not lose the lock. The second time you can remove the locks is if you have a launch order. We now do. She has one. The reason we need to get into the safe is twofold. Number one, the keys are in the safe. Well, they're really not, because we took them out to place them in the consoles because that's convenient. But normally they're in the safe. In addition, there are approximately 45 of these verification cards. One of these cards could verify her launch order. Captain, you know there's 45 in the safe, right? You also know that you can only choose one. And you also know that you have 3 minutes to launch this missile. So what do all good captains do under those circumstances? And it starts with a D.
Delegate.
There you go. That's why you're the captain. Our left hand's on the keys. Captain, I need a very authoritative countdown from you. I need a 3, 2, 1, launch.
3, 2, 1, launch.
It's very rhythmic. All right, sit back, have a cup of coffee and a smoke. You've done everything you need to do. You have started a process you cannot stop. Captain, if the president calls right now and says, Captain, I made a terrible mistake. You have 2 words for the president.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry, sir. Okay? You have a light here that says batteries activated. For the first time, the 2 batteries on the missile are being force-fed electrolytes. That's going to take 28 seconds. At the end of that 28 seconds, you're going to see an APS light, alternate power system. The missile saying, guys, I don't need you anymore. I know exactly what to do. I know where to go. Let me at it. You're going to hear a funny sound. That's silo soft. That's that huge door passing through the Tipsy system saying the silo is open for business. You're going to see a guidance go light. Guidance go means the missile is checking with the guidance system. It says, I know where I am, so I know where I'm going. There is only one thing left for this missile to do, and that is to fire engine and liftoff. 58 seconds from the time you turn those keys to the time this 330,000-pound missile is lifting itself out of the silo, it is going to travel some 6,300 miles. It's only going to take 30 to 35 minutes because it's traveling at 18,000 miles an hour. And target 2 will be obliterated from the face of the earth.
Guys, we're heading down to the actual missile now. He was just telling us about how they launched this, and it was wild. So can't wait to show you guys this. This is insane. Oh wow.
Soviets at the time had much larger payloads. Their payloads were upwards of 25 megatons. Ours was only 9. The problem with the Soviets is they had really lousy accuracy. If they aimed a missile at Los Angeles, they'd have been lucky to hit El Paso. And they knew it. The guys in the fishing vessels knew it. So for 19 years, these 54 missiles kept the peace. No nuclear war between the Soviets and the Americans. During that time period, NASA came in and bought 15 of these missiles, and they used them to launch all of the Gemini projects, including Neil Armstrong's first flight into space. Okay, these missiles not only carried weapons, they also carried capsules. 1982 rolls around and President Reagan says, we're going to decommission all these missiles because we have a better one now. We have a Minuteman missile. Minuteman III is what protects us today. They're half the height, half the diameter, with a much smaller payload. We don't need a large payload now because they're much more accurate. Okay, in the old days, remember, if you wanted to take out this target, all you had to do was land within a mile, and you're going to take out that target, but you're also going to take out everything in between. Minuteman missile, we can put in the center of a football field. They also can carry multiple warheads. These were all single warheads. We have 400 Minuteman silos up north, Wyoming, Montana, and the Dakotas. 200 of those silos have missiles in them with multiple warheads. but most of our defense today comes from submarines. We can park a submarine under the ice near the North Pole, and you can't see it from a satellite. And we can put 20 missiles on a single submarine. And each one of those 20 missiles can carry 10 warheads. That is an immense amount of firepower, folks.
Okay guys, after 55 kind of stairs, we're up at the top, and now we're going to get to look down. And then I'll kind of do a little bit of a recap with you guys to tell you what we just learned. Oh, wow. So being able to go underground and see it kind of at face level is very impressive. It's huge. However, seeing it from above, you can see the cap of it and see how far down it is, even from the top of this like bunker area, this launch bunker. So it's really, really neat. But after hearing the talk and learning about the Cold War and all of the things, the standoff that was had between the different countries, it's super impressive. But there's even more out here. Lots of interesting things that relate to the sites that were here in Arizona. In fact, we learned that there were over 50 sites kind of strategically placed with these Titan IIs. And they were built within a very short amount of time. And the people who were actually manning them had 1 year of special training to be in them. 1 year, that's it. Most of them were younger people. In fact, most of them were under the age of 25, and yet they were in charge of the scariest nuclear warhead of all times. That's insane. But there's a couple other things I want to show you before we head out today. As we look at the various items that are around this outer area, you'll find that there are some QR codes, which we love a good QR code. That's great for education. Tells you a little bit more about how the engines would operate, but not just the engines, all the different pieces. We also learned about these, which are like the trip wires, which would allow them to know if something had gone awry and the doors had opened when they weren't supposed to. There was another set of trip wires next to the air shaft to make sure that no one was coming to put chemicals or anything bad inside that might harm the people that were working below. In fact, we learned that crews of 4 people would work on 24-hour shifts, and a 24-hour shift would be almost every 3 days. And so these people were working about 10 days a month in one of the highest stress jobs in the entire country. But here we learned that they were a weapon of deterrence, not of threat. And they helped to protect us for over 25 years before being decommissioned because the new system had arrived. Now we learned that the new system that's available is stationed more northbound in the United States. It's in like Wyoming, Montana, places like that. And so they don't need these old silos anymore. But I'm glad that they keep them here for our education, because we got a lot of brain wrinkles today. We learned a little bit more about how our world around us works. We also learned the scary reality that could be facing us in the future if this world continues to go awry. So guys, with that said, if you have ever considered coming to a place like this, I definitely recommend it. Remember guys, we're not here for a long time. We are here for a good time. This place was definitely that. Till next time guys, bye!